Welcome back everybody to Extreme Offroad Silly Builds, and today we're dealing with the 2006 Dodge Ram SRT-10. Now this is no longer sporting a V10 engine, it now has a V8, but it's double supercharged and it has even more in the way of cubic capacity over the standard engine in this car at 8.9 litres, and all of that is kicking out 1,500 horsepower and 1,100 pounds-feet of torque, while the vehicle itself weighs 3,571 pounds, now has all-wheel drive, off-road tyres and off-road suspension, and it can do 0 to 60 in 2.84 seconds, 0 to 105.597 seconds, and go to a top speed of 209 miles an hour. So obviously this has way more power than it had originally, 3 times the power, while also having a less in the way of weight, which could upset some of the handling, but also crucially has all-wheel drive, which it never had before either. So yeah, either way this could be quick given the amount of power it's got, or it could be too much of a handful given yeah, it was never meant for this kind of level of performance or power either. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what this can do. Now this is obviously the first pickup truck that we've had on this series so far. Pickup trucks notoriously can have handling issues when it comes to the rear end because there's such a lack of weight behind there, and obviously there is still power being delivered to that rear end at the end of the day. So yeah, it can sometimes prove a little bit difficult to get these kind of vehicles going around a course like this, especially when you introduce bumps and jumps and such, which can continue to upset that rear end, which again doesn't have much weight to hold it down. And that's why I have added a alternative rear spoiler to this. It's an aftermarket one, and hopefully it will provide some additional downforce for the vehicle to keep that rear end in check. Yeah, definitely more powerful than what it was originally and far faster, which is helped by that all-wheel drive system. In fact, I do have I believe an A-class version of this, which obviously is not as extreme in terms of horsepower, although I think it still does have 700 horsepower, and that actually is surprisingly good in terms of handling when it comes to road or street racing. So yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good handling here, but actually surprisingly it is. It's not getting as out of check as I would have expected it to. On the landings of the jumps, you know, the rear end isn't popping up like I might well expect. Seen that on previous Forza games where that has happened, but with this at the very least that is not the case. Dab with the handbrake there to get the front round, or the rear round, whichever way you want to say it. But yeah, this is doing really well. Tad bit of understeer there, but I guess that's to be expected with having a all-wheel drive system now. A little bit messy there, but that is still a really rather quick time and far from the slowest that we've had at 2 minutes 23.911. Now granted, that does not put it at the top of the leaderboard, but it does put it squarely into 4th position, beating the Audi R8 Coupe V10 from the previous episode, as well as a Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 6 GSR TM edition, and it's only about half a second or so slower than a Volkswagen Rally Golf, which obviously had far less in the way of power, but also far less in the way of weight, and probably a little bit more in the way of agility. But that is still pretty impressive for a £3,500 plus pickup truck with 1,500 horsepower. So yeah, on the whole, really rather impressive, and yeah, hopefully there are other pickup trucks out there that can rival this one or do even better, because yeah, that is surprisingly quick, and yeah, not quite the result I was expecting. I was anticipating it to be A, a little bit more of a handful, and B, perhaps a little bit on the slower side of things, but I'm always happy to be surprised when it comes to vehicles on this series, and this has been a surprise. Nonetheless, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.